Hello, I'm Alicia. I went to church with Avis for years and years. I just remember her as a loving and encouragement through all my years. Whatever I was involved in, she was always there to greet me, and she was always there to just give, through my teen years and not feeling, the awkwardness that comes with teen years. She was always there to, be on Sundays, and she'd always be there and give me encouragement. And even so much as I was raised by my mom, single parent, and I never had to take her up on this offer, but she talked to my grandmother and told her, while I was in nursing school, if I couldn't pay, she would have put me through nursing school. She would have, actually invested that much into me. Didn't have to do it, but just the fact that she was willing to do that showed how much she believed in me. And I carried her encouragement through all of my times. And she would always have, not just with me, but everywhere. My grandmother was a sickly woman. She had lupus, and there was multiple, any birthday, any anniversary, when my grandma was sick, there would always be something from Avis. I have multiple bookmarks that she signed for multiple years, and they're stuck in various places. And so every time I read a book with it or open my Bible, she's there. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. I don't know if you ever even knew that, Mark, that she was going to help me through nursing school if I ever needed it. I'll always remember her.
I knew Avis. Excuse my voice, I don't have much of a voice. At Southland Church, and I know her last few years, she wasn't well, and it was hard for her to get out to church, and then for the last few times that she came, she didn't feel like doing much. But when I knew her, she was the greeter at church, and everybody loved it when she would greet them and welcome them to church. I know that she was always a friend. Somebody mentioned the cards that she would always send to people for birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. She was wonderful at sending a card, a little message always. I remember that she helped a lot of people, and Alicia's already told you that. But the children at church, we had a large bus ministry for a while. And I don't know how many children she helped, but I know she used to send a lot of the children the Highlights magazine. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was a great thing to do.
Excuse me.
But I know that most of the people that go to church here didn't know her. But she has quite an attendance here of people that used to know her from Southland Church. And we all have fond memories of Avis.
Hi, my name is Ann. I attend East Flint here. I didn't know Avis too well, but our daughter, she was freshman, sophomore. Avis was coming to church here, and they became buddies. I'm not sure how that all played out, but our daughter's Kate. She's now 24. But we shared that Avis had passed, and she just wanted me to say what a great companion Avis was, and she appreciated her support. I know she went and visited her and got to see all the Elvis stuff. She hadn't seen much Elvis stuff at her age. We didn't have much Elvis in any Elvis in our home. So I know she enjoyed that, and she just wanted me to share that it was an honor that she got to know Avis. So that's all.
My name's Jerry Clark. I used to be a policeman for many years in the Sheriff's Department. I used to get on the 67th District Court where Avis was in charge. She ran that place. One day I was in there, and she was having a bad day. I said, is there anything I can help you with? And she said, it's a church. we discussed the South Flint, but she wouldn't tell me what the problems was. She says that's between her and the church. I said, well, you don't think they're working out right? Come on over to East Flint, we'll be glad to have you. She said, no way, this is my church, I'm gonna work it out, we will work it out. She was very proud to be a member of the South Flint Church. She's very proud of her family. She discussed that many times with me. She was a great lady. She helped me a lot of times in different cases I was working on because of her memory. We didn't have computers. We had memories back in those days. And they never failed. We didn't have to plug them in or anything else. She was great. And you should be very proud of your mother and the life she lived.
Thank you, Jerry.
Well, unfortunately, when Avis started coming here, her health was already down quite a bit. And so, consequently, I know a lot of you never really got to know her. She was quite the lady. She was. Mark has been going around telling everybody, I have the distinction of having known her longer than anybody else here. That's when we went to the old Evergreen Valley Church, corner of Lippincott and Church Street. And I must have been about 9, 10 years old when they started going there. Because I think they started right shortly after she got married. Sound about right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
So too. We just thought the world, she was 13 years older than I was, but I just thought the world of that lady. I thought, my goodness, she looked so good, and she played quite a piano. My goodness, she was so used to working with the quartets and with Elvis and everything, and so you can imagine her style of play when she was allowed to play how she wanted to. It was very, very good. So she did that, and her husband Leon would sing, play the piano, and I don't know, she always had that big smile on her face. Her personality was so outgoing. She just was quite the lady. And I lost touch with her for years. You get older and you all go your own way. We left the Evergreen Valley, and it wasn't until after she came over here that I reestablished connections with her. And she took one look, after all those years, she took one look at me. So, hi, Roger, how you been? I couldn't believe she still even knew me. Like I said, I was just a kid, 13 years younger than her at the time. But she took that much of an interest in people. And I have no idea how she did all the stuff she did over the years. How she had time to. She held down a full-time job, which over the years she kept going up and up in her career with the type of work she did. And then she also went to school, got further training, and then the work that she did to help out in the church, and then of course having to raise Mark, and then really getting involved with the quartets and the Elvis and all that. It's just amazing. I don't think she really ever slept. She was constantly on the go. But that was Avis. She cared deeply about other people. She just was a wonderful person, and I will always remember her.
Well, obviously it gets to be the host's turn now. Kind of a strange mode that I get a chance to do 2 eulogies in roughly about 60 days. It has been a relatively tough last 2 months. First and foremost, I definitely want to thank all of you for being here. And next up, I definitely want to acknowledge the person that did came up with this idea to have this for everybody today. My wife, Shar. Thank you so much, dear, for making this suggestion for an alternative, since we did not have a memorial service in her memory. And I definitely do want to thank the committee for preparing the meal and having everything situated for us and everything working with them. And obviously, of course, for Michael for allowing us to have this here today. and for Adam for putting together and allowing the slide presentation to go. Well, a fair amount of you, I guess, have already kind of touched base on some of the things that I was going to mention about, but that's quite all right here. I'll just kind of improvise the best I can. Being the fact that she was the oldest of 4 kids and a pastor's daughter, and they've traveled around a lot since he was in maybe the church pastoral role, and I mean, she bounced all over the place. She was born in Bel Air, but moved all over. She was in Ellsworth, she was in East Jordan, she was in Croswell, Detroit, before she eventually ended up in Flint, and graduated as a valedictorian of her class at Bendel High School in 1952. And then actually, our parents actually crossed paths originally in 1948 when they were kids, believe it or not. I'm not sure where they were all at that timetable, but all I know was that she was like 13, or 12 or 13 at the time, and Dad was about 10, roughly. And he had just lost his mother prior to that, so I never got to know my grandmother on his side of the family. But in the meantime, she ended up on her own after she graduated high school and started to work for the Piper Agency people. And she was there for like 13 years, just to kind of jump ahead in that department a little bit. But anyway, and then we got to the timetable where obviously her and Dad got married April the 13th of 1957. And they had as they mentioned, they had a little song ministry that they did for a while. And then of course, August 19, 1961, I came along into the family, and also too, her next oldest sister was a resident of our place for about 9 years at that time after she got out of the Marine Corps. So I have a bit of a pedigree for the military. But anyway, I apologize here, I'm digressing. I had a couple of sources that suggested I try a script again after I did it the first time at Dad's funeral. So anyway, let me try to, the interesting part, to a certain degree, I'll point out something about the slide presentation. The Love Me Tender part was what she had originally planned on having played at her wedding when they got married. One of the things that she had was a reel-to-reel copy of that 1957 wedding. So I actually got a chance to hear what actually went on that period of time over 60 plus years ago. And the ironic portion of that, I don't know how closely you paid attention, both of their fathers were in the ceremony, conducting the ceremony as the overseers. I don't know the proper terminology, but you get the point. Both of my grandfathers saw over, I think her side's father did the actual performing the ceremony proper. I think my grandpa, my dad's side, was the prayer leader in that department. Okay, I know I'm stretching things out a little bit too far here. Let me try to see if I can get moving here a little bit faster. As Jerry mentioned a little while ago, she did begin to expand her timetable out on her job from being at Piper Agencies, and then she started going into the court system in the mid-60s and started out as a court reporter, at least what I can remember, back in 1969. And she was with the 67th District all the way through the remaining time frame until she retired at the beginning of 1992. And at that point in time frame, unfortunately, like I say, the marriage did not last, and my parents split up in 1967. So she basically became, after the courts made the decision to rule custody over to her, excuse me. That she, for a while it was the two of them, my aunt and her, and then after my aunt left, it became just the two of us. And then we moved to Davison in '72, and obviously the change in the atmosphere from one point to the next was obviously a bit of a challenge on all ends concerned or whatever, and it still is a little strange now, and the atmosphere just isn't the same anymore being over at her house. One of the challenges I did end up putting her through when I was growing up was when she decided to try to teach me how to drive. She decided from M15 on Bristol all the way to our house when I was at the tail end of my sophomore year and start my junior year, we're going to start showing you how to drive a car. Well, at one point in time frame, I discovered I am not great at backing a car out of a driveway when it got to that point, and ended up driving her 1971 Buick LeSabre up and down a ditch in our driveway, and there was a nice little boulder that was right in the way and slammed into the bumper when I went up and down it. So needless to say, things in driver's education did not go that well, so I told her, I said, I'm not gonna do this again until it's time for me to learn how to drive properly. So, but anyway, then I get to graduating high school, and this is where she starts to enjoy all the things that you've been seeing on the slide presentation. We go on a nice little innocent trip to Memphis in 1979 in Nashville. There are a fair amount of stories. If I had more time, I'd be able to share about those with you, but that was basically her launching pad from that portion to start her friendship scenarios going. I think her best one, though, still had to be her 1981 scenario, where we were actually exchanging cassette tapes back and forth versus making phone calls. And at one point, she proceeds to tell me on one of these tapes, she's at a Howard Johnson's restaurant in Memphis, and she overhears this gentleman ask her in a British accent, "What is cottage cheese?" And it's like, she told me, says, "Well, how do you explain that cottage cheese is curdled milk, for crying out loud?" Those were her exact words. That started a 40-plus year relationship between her and the fan club of Great Britain that has been to her dying day that she's had a lot of these friendships. She used to average between 100 to 150 Christmas cards a year that we'd always sit and listen to her read, or we would read ourselves in a case like that. So, but anyway, she was able to make 2 trips over there to that part of the world, and then she ended up expanding that to not only the England portion, but also to Asia, to Australia, and points of, it's just overwhelming. It's like, I've got a mother that has now become a world traveler. Well, I'm playing my own world traveling, being I was in the Air Force for 12 years at that point. But anyway, so let me just see here. I'm trying to get to, because like I say, her connection is too numerous for me to keep going on these notes. I apologize. But mostly the Elvis month was August, and if I were to have to answer the question, it would have to be a tie between which one of her 2 interests were the best or her most enjoyable. Like I said, if it was August, it would be Elvis. If it was September, it was the National Quartet Convention, as some people talked about earlier. And there is one story I definitely do want to make sure I mention about so I don't forget this. One of the pictures that was featured was she was riding on a bus, and the best connection between Elvis and the quartet people that she had was one of her best friends in the world. That was none other than J.D. Sumner, the deepest bass singer in the world. They were very, very close friends for a long time. And here they are. They were at a concert in Pontiac in 1993, and they brought their bus up because they were going over to Canada. That's where she came into the picture, riding on the bus part. Obviously, though, they did not want to take all of their product across the border for them to have so much overstock they wouldn't sell. So guess where they come over to drop their stuff off and leave it in the meantime? At our house. Can you imagine yourself, how would it be like if you see this great big Greyhound-sized bus coming down a road and then trying to get into a person's driveway to drop off a whole bunch of product? That I could not believe. I'm standing out, looking out the window, watching them trying to maneuver this bus and try to get in.